So we are very excited today to have Dr. Sue Shapcott with us, Dee. How exciting is this?
It's very exciting, and we're very, very privileged and fortunate to have Sue, who's in America at the moment. So thank you, Sue, for giving up your precious time to speak to ProGolfGals.
Oh, thank you for having me. I love your channel, so I am absolutely thrilled and honored to be on it. I feel a little bit of pressure though. So
well, you're our first ever guest. This is super exciting, isn't it, Dee?
We've started at the top.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Dr. Sue Shapcott is a member of the British PGA, and she's also the owner of ChangeGolfInstruction. So Sue is a golf professional from the UK, now living in the US. How did you end up living in the US, Sue?
Oh, it's a very long story. I will keep it fairly brief. So I finished playing on tour, which hopefully we'll talk about. Done my PGA qualifications, and just through a mutual friend was introduced to Hank Haney, who probably very flippantly said, "Hey, if ever you want to come and teach for me in the States, let me know."
So just for everyone real quick, and there's probably nobody who doesn't know who Hank Haney is, but very, very famous golf coach who was Tiger Woods' golf coach for quite a long time.
That's right. So whether it was a flippant comment or not, I took him at his word and just persisted and ended up moving out to Dallas, Texas in 2000. And I thought I'd be out here for a couple of years and then go back to the UK. And here we are 20 years later. So it was like most things in life, bit of luck, being in the right time at the right place.
Yeah. What a good experience. And the three of us played golf on tour at the same time on the European tour. So we go a long way back. I might try and find some old photos if I can somewhere. I don't know if anyone's got a photo of the three of us from a long time ago, but we'll dig around, see what we can
So
find.
when did you join Annie, when did you join the tour? Because Annie and I we started in 87, and we started on exactly the same tournament, which was at Waterloo in Belgium. So when did you start?
I played Curtis Cup in 88, and then
you were a very good amateur, weren't you?
Very good amateur. Yeah, very good amateur.
Very good pro.
Okay, pro. Very good amateur. I turned pro in 89.
Okay.
And then finished in about 95. So I probably didn't play for as long as you all did. But it was a long time ago, and what was that, 30 years ago or something? We were all very young at the time.
Yeah.
You were very young. You were very young.
I was exceptionally young.
So let's start off with a few tales from the tour. I just noticed on Facebook, Laura Davies, there's one of these sort of viral things where you nominate someone to tell a story from the tour, and she's just blown everybody out the water with her story of flying to Las Vegas on a Thursday night after having a poor round on the Thursday and getting back in time for their tea time the next day and still making the cut and winning money in it's no one can top that story anymore. But we're gonna give you a couple of stories from our guests. Have you got any?
Me? Oh gosh, my best stories. Well, I've a couple come to mind. So as you know, I played on tour with my sister.
Ali.
She's 2 years. Ali's 2 years older. My big sister, I did everything that she told me to do, which was mostly good, other than when she was the navigator. And I remember one time we were driving from the UK to a tournament in Brussels, maybe even the tournament that you mentioned, and we managed to not only miss Brussels, but we missed Belgium. So
where did you end up?
I don't know, but we were just like, I think we hit France, and then we thought we were going to hit Belgium, and then we hit Germany, and
bounced around in Germany.
Was the traffic bad, Sue? Was the traffic bad, or you thought, God, this is a slow trip? Or when did you realize?
Oh goodness, I do remember we stopped and decided, oh, what the hell, we might as well stop and have a nice lunch somewhere. I think we were thankfully in France at that point, not in Germany. And then we did have a day to spare, so it's not.
Thank goodness for that, right?
Thank goodness for that. So we didn't miss like our check-in time or the pro-am time, but yeah, it was like, how did we even get around before Google
Yes,
Maps?
we think of all the travel we did, the different countries every week.
Yeah, drove everywhere. And
Yeah.
then were any of you Skoda drivers?
Yes, I was a
girl?
Skoda
I was
girl.
in the end.
Were you? I mean,
it was a Citroen to start with. That was Skoda felt like going down. Like
Skoda was going down. Skoda was embarrassing to drive around.
So I do
with your
remember
name plastered all over it.
I know, we had our names on it. My sister peeled her name off, I remember.
Did she?
So yeah. And I think one of the final straws for her was she would turn on the radio and the back windscreen wiper. But I remember one time playing, the tour was something like, we had a tournament in France and then that tournament up in Titherington, which meant that everyone arrived in Dover and then had to just scoot all up to Titherington.
Wolverhampton in northern England, wasn't it?
Yeah, and along the motorway it would be like, okay, there's one Skoda broken down. A few 50 miles later, you'd see another.
And it's got your name on the side. I remember driving on the motorway and I had my foot absolutely flat to the boards doing about 70 because that's as fast as it would go, and it was screaming at me because that was as fast as it would go, and people like zoom, zoom going past me.
Oh, I know we sound ungrateful. We were very grateful for the cars, but it was pretty funny.
I remember, Sue, going to a casino with you, and I don't think any of us had been to casinos much. We were the last of the big spenders, and I remember you sitting down at the table with £5. And you put the £5. Everyone else has got hundreds of pounds everywhere. Sue puts her £5 down on the table, and she goes really loudly, "Wow, down to my last £5."
Yeah, I'm amazed I put £5 down. I suppose I had to get £1 out. I win?
We didn't gamble with Laura. Let's put it that way.
One time, and it's about coaching, and so it's probably for our students. We were playing, I was down in Rome when they had the tournament in Rome. I just made the cut. I was hitting it like a dog. I wish I wouldn't have made the cut. And I wanted to get back to find out I couldn't work out what I was doing wrong. So luckily John was driving, and we drove from Rome after we finished on the Sunday, all the way back up to London, had my lesson off Lawrence Farmer. Turned out my hands were just a fraction too high. Then had to drive to Sweden to play a tournament there.
Oh, wow.
And I remember I was like, "Oh, can't we stay in a hotel or something, please?" And he goes, "No, we have to drive." And we're driving all night. And I was like, oh, God, I don't really like being on tour that much when you have to drive and not stay in hotels.
Oh, I know.
You would have been exhausted before you...
So you drove all the way back and you'd literally just move the club a little bit in your hand?
So my hand, looking at it like this, my left hand was just a little too high. I just had to make it a little bit like that. So I was hitting the ball very low. I just had to do that. It was an hour lesson. Thanked Lawrence, got in the car, drove off, played really well. So it had to be a mental thing too, but it was... So when clients say to me, "Oh, I don't really want to drive over the bridge for a lesson," I go, "I drove all the way from Rome to London."
I remember getting lessons from a guy. I was living in the north of England, and David Ledbetter's sidekick Dennis Pugh I used to get lessons off down, and he was way down the south, and I would leave home about 4:00 in the morning, get there for 8:00 for a lesson, spend a few hours, and then drive back again the same day. You did that quite regularly.
He's the man now, isn't he?
Is he?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah. He's like the man for European men's golf. He is the king of coaches. And it all started with you, Anne.
Yeah, that's right. I put him on the map. Actually, I did. I won my first. I only won once on the European Tour, and it was because I was getting lessons with him. He tweaked a few things. Same thing, Dee. Didn't do all that much. Tweaked a few things. Did in my timing. My changeover was a bit quick, and we slowed down the timing of that. And then I won literally the next week. Wow.
It is so interesting, you know, the good players who I've taught, which, I mean, I taught Lieselot Neumann for a little bit, when I was working with Hank. And it really amazes me, you know, you're reminding me of, like, when I would teach her, I would want to work on something, and it wasn't necessarily a big thing. And she was like, that's going to take a lot of practice to get that right. And it's like, so she's this, you know, hugely successful professional golfer, practices for hours a day, really has good body awareness, and a small little tweak feels huge to her.
Mm-hmm.
And when we're teaching recreational players, then not only do I tend to give them more, but they want more. And so, I mean, it's pretty interesting that, you know, if we think back to our playing days, the smallest change felt so huge. And sometimes that doesn't kind of, you know, both as coaches and for our students, you know, that would be a good thing to remember, like you say, that you can only do a little bit at a time. And sometimes it's a hard sell. Well, it's a hard sell, meaning it's not a hard sell, but, you know, saying, look, we're going to improve your game. It's going to be a process. It's going to be difficult. It's going to feel awkward. We're going to work on the same thing over and over and over again for a while. I mean, that's not a very sexy sell, is it? I mean, it's much nicer if we could say, you know, I have the secret.
Yeah.
Just book one lesson with me, and
people do say that. In this day and age of the instant gratification as a golf pro, I often think there's no getting around it. There's no quick fixes. There's no shortcuts.
No.
You practice, and it's really hard trying to get across in this day and age when everything happens so quickly. You know?
That's why you build the relationship, don't you think? If you can build the relationship, your students know you care, you love them, you want what's best for them, they'll follow you. They'll do what you do, but you've got to keep nurturing them and keep encouraging and letting them see that it's increments of improvement.
Incremental
improvement.
Keep plugging away. It's like anything in life, isn't it? You just keep going. So let's move on to ask you a little bit about your research that you've been doing. So you're a researcher and you've focused a lot on golf and the various trends that are moving through the industry, and specifically for us, I think women's golf. And you've discovered some interesting things about women and their reluctance to get into golf, and the problems that they face when they take up golf. So what's your sort of most interesting findings around that?
Can I ask a question, Sue? Was your what was your PhD? What was your doctorate in? Was it in?
So broadly, it's in education. So more specifically in educational psychology. So how people learn, what motivates them. So, but kind of in the education department. Right. And so I became, take a step back. So for as long as we have all been in the golf industry, then we have heard, you know, the same things. We need to get more women in golf. We need to get more girls in golf. You know, we've heard this for, don't want to give our ages away, but for decades, we've heard the same old story. And so, you know, part of my research kind of going down that route was, I was just tired of hearing the same old stories and having the same old solutions that weren't really solving the problem. So I wanted to understand more from an evidence basis, you know, what are some of the issues that women have? What are the issues in the culture and the environment, and what can we do as coaches to try and engage women more? And really the results were not surprising perhaps to some of us in the industry, and that is that the golf experience for men and women ends up being very different. And by that I mean that in an ideal world, the golf experience for men and women would be good, and it would be adaptive, and it would be motivational. Instead, it tends to be adaptive and motivational for men, but for women, then it isn't. And the experience that women have makes assumptions about them that you know, they may be interested in playing golf for, you know, different reasons than men, that they may not be interested in improving, they may not be interested in competing. And so all of these assumptions mean that their coaching experience doesn't necessarily help them understand how to improve. Instead, it just kind of almost pats them on the head more, and just kind of talks about the social aspects of golf. Now, instead of that environment, then obviously my motivations for doing things are probably different to yours, who are different to Dee, that you know, different to anyone, male or female. And so instead of, you know, the golf industry just kind of categorizing women as this one group that's homogenous, that we're all the same, then in golf what we've got to do is just kind of teach the person in front of us, not make assumptions based on gender, not make assumptions based on kind of how much coaches think women want to learn or do know about golf, and just really teach everyone from in a adaptive way. So, you know, help them understand what it is they need to improve, and then kind of give them a plan so that they can improve, which, you know, this sounds just blatantly obvious, but it isn't what has been happening in our industry. So my research has demonstrated that coaches tend to have a bias about women being less able to improve than men, and then that results in women having a very different coaching experience than men, and a less adaptive one than that. So my hope is that, you know, we can kind of start having difficult conversations that the golf industry hasn't necessarily wanted to have about, you know, maybe we're part of the problem in not getting more women involved in golf, and maybe we're, you know, are too stereotypical about what we think women want and don't want in golf, and so we end up just treating them very differently instead of just treating everyone like a golfer. And, you know, our job as coaches is to help them improve. There you go, that's the academic boring bit out the way.
So do you think that women seek out female golf pros as a result of that, and they feel more comfortable? Do you think women golf pros do the same thing?
So what my data showed is that women coaches have the same biases as male coaches, which really doesn't, again, isn't surprising if you think, right, we're all in this same golf environment, we're all in the same industry, we all know kind of the stereotypes that exist about women golfers. So yeah, my data didn't show that you know, women coaches were any different in their biases. And you know, if you have a look at you know, leadership in golf, then it's predominantly male, and so it just keeps sending these messages that you know, to be an expert in golf, then, you know, you probably are a guy. And so, you know, it's very kind of top heavy, and then it just kind of filters down. And so a lot of these biases you know, are not intended to you know, put women off of playing golf. In fact, sometimes it's the opposite. You know, coaches are very conscious in thinking, all right, I'm teaching a woman, and I know that there's a stereotype about women, and so I'm going to treat her differently than if I was teaching a guy. And sometimes, you know, that just has the complete opposite effect than they intend to have. But you know, so much of this bias is just ingrained culturally, that it's just kind of threaded throughout, you know, education programs. It's threaded through, you know, who we see as experts in golf, and all of that stuff. You know, it has an effect on coaches and other people working in the industry about who they think is a golfer and who isn't. So
What's the solution, Sue?
First of all, start having these conversations. So recognizing that we have issues, you know, like other industries do, like, you know, STEM, math and science, technology, engineering. Then, you know, they're having these conversations. It's the solution is talking about, you know, with coaches, the assumptions that coaches make, and just kind of having coaches be aware of what it is that they think about women golfers, and, you know, are they stereotyping women that they're teaching, and just getting them to reflect on how does that play out in you know, the lesson that I'm giving. And, you know, Dee asked a question about, do women prefer women coaches? When women take up golf and they come into the golf environment, then they are very likely to experience what's called stereotype threat, which means that they're aware of these stereotypes in the environment, and they don't want to play golf in a way that people are going to say, see, women aren't very good at golf. They don't hit it very far. They're slow. And so they start getting bogged down by trying not to become the stereotype that they're afraid of people judging them as. And so that's called stereotype threat. And we do know that by having someone like you as an expert in an environment can reduce that stereotype threat. So, you know, women coaches, they may still have the same biases as male coaches, but there is an argument to be made that having more female coaches is going to help reduce that stereotype threat that new women golfers might experience. So that would be another solution, really addressing the number of women coaches that we have right now. I think in UK, US, probably Australia is a bit better, I think, but all of those markets have less than 5% of their coaching workforce as women.
We're a rare commodity, the lady golf pro.
Yeah, it's true.
Sue, when I first started coaching in 1986 golf as a professional in Sydney, I was the only woman coaching golf in Sydney as a professional, making money out of it. And it was extremely tough. It was extremely tough because you had no other support system. My friends who I love dearly, my friends who were male golf pros, used to get really angry and say to me, well, you know, it's not fair. You didn't do a traineeship. You know, you're not as good as us. And I would simply say, I've been a school teacher. I have a degree. I've got a major in psychology education. I played for Australia. I can play golf. I've had the best coaches. If I'm no good, I won't be around in a year, guys. But it was really tough. And even the women who would, even then I probably taught 50% male, female. And the men who would only come to the last lesson. They didn't want their mates to know they were getting lessons off a woman. That sort of change when you get some recognition that you're in a top 50 coach, then it's okay to have it off a woman. But even the women, even to this day, you know, some of them just say to me, and I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but they'll say, oh, my husband said I should come to you, and I think I should come to you because you're a woman. And I go, wouldn't it be best to come to me because I'm the best? And
that's the answer, isn't it? If everybody, you know, you want good coaches, not male coaches and female coaches, you just want good coaches.
Yes.
Well, we should wrap this up, I think. And
but I'm having such fun. I don't want to go. No.
I thought we could finish up, Sue, because you're still very actively coaching most days, and we thought we would ask you, what's your biggest or best piece of advice that you can give the average golfer, you know, in terms of...
Oh, that's it.
I know.
What is the magic cure?
I'm getting my paper out. I'm going to write it down.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I mean, I think I have to, you know, take a bit of my medicine and say that really the best gift that I think we could give golfers is for them to look at golf ability and realize that it's a process, is going to take time, but they can learn it and they can improve. So having this kind of growth mindset about what ability is.
That's great.
and finding a coach that is going to help them and also believes in their ability to improve. So, you know, just kind of reframing what golfability is and just seeing it as a process, because that also helps with patience, expectations, frustrations, you know, all of those things. I think that would be, if I could wave a magic wand, that would be what I would give to the people that I teach. And you know, also that you all know this too, the people who come and they hit a bad shot, like, I've never hit a bad shot like that before, as if, you know, I care or I'm judging them or I haven't seen a bad shot before. It's like, you know, who cares if you hit a bad shot? Let's just think about how we're gonna help you improve, and, you know, don't worry that you hit bad shots. This is just going to be a process.
Yeah,
that's a great gift to give. I think that was a wonderful answer, Sue. Wasn't
was a
kind
good
of what I
answer.
was expecting, but it was a wonderful answer. I wrote it down.
Did you think it was going to be grip? Did you think it was going to be
I thought it was going to be set up grip.
Don't keep your head down. Sue, it's been so fascinating listening to you and talking to you. Thank you so much for being on our video, our first ever guest.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much. And I love your YouTube channel. I love when your videos come out, because you have just great information and they're really fun, and it makes me want to be part of your...
You're an honorary pro golf gal, Sue.
Oh,
Sue,
thank you.
Sue,
yes.
Tell us your YouTube channel, because we follow you as well, because we've known you for a long time, and you've got some great info out there. So fantastic. Tell our viewers what your YouTube channel is.
My YouTube channel is Change Golf Instruction, and my videos, I have some technical stuff, swing stuff, short game stuff, how to learn and practice, which I want to do more of that, because I think that's how, you know, I can really add some value. But my videos are just me, so they're not as fun as ProGolfGals, which I'm a bit envious about. But they're short and they're to the point, and
they're excellent. I'm a big fan of Sue's videos. She's very easy to understand, very easy to follow, keeps it very simple. I just love the energy of your videos, Sue. Really easy to watch.
And if you come and live in Australia, you can join us. You can become the third ProGolfGals.
How's your immigration policies these days?
We might not let you
pretty
in.
Good for POMs. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Cool chatting with you.
You too, and we'll speak soon.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Sue.
Bye.
Bye, Annie.
Bye.
Bye.